executive editor and correspondent for CBS News Radio. Steve Dorsey is in Washington. Okay, Steve, let's start with Betsy DeVos. How shaky is the ground that she's on? And are you hearing of any other Republicans who are not going to back her?
Rena and Vlad, at this point, Republicans are confident they can get enough votes to get Betsy DeVos through the Senate, though it'll be tied likely at 50-50, which means Vice President Mike Pence will have to be that deciding tie-breaking vote.
And Steve, to my understanding, the Vice President of the United States in the history of this republic has never done that, right? Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, that would be unprecedented. It would be the first time the Vice President would have to be a deciding vote in a nomination. And in fact, Minority Leader Chuck Schumer on the floor of the Senate this morning said that that is totally uncalled for, essentially giving the White House two votes, one from Vice President Mike Pence and also a second one from Alabama Senator Jeff Sessions, who himself is waiting to be confirmed in the Senate to be Attorney General.
And so we're looking ahead, big picture here, when you're talking about Capitol Hill. You were referring to the Supreme Court nominations as well. Where do you think this goes from here? Do you think that the Republicans will need to push going nuclear?
Well, it could be a roller coaster ride, especially for Democrats in how they plan on what to do next, because Democrats are calling for a 60-vote threshold in the Senate for Neil Gorsuch to meet. But Republicans want a simple up or down vote to approve him by a majority. Now, if Democrats filibuster, that means that they will be successful and at least stalling the nomination process for Gorsuch. But that nuclear option is still a bargaining chip for Republicans, which means the Republican leadership in the Senate can go ahead, change the rules, and prevent filibusters on future Supreme Court nominations. A big change in rules and a big change in the way the Senate functions in the government here in Washington.
Steve, let me ask you a question about that, and let's get just a little bit wonky here. I'm curious, are you hearing from lawmakers that perhaps when it comes to Neil Gorsuch, given the fact that the president has said that he would support Mitch McConnell going nuclear, to use the president's word, that the Democrats may say, you know what, there are rumors that Justice Kennedy may retire. If we set this precedent so early in the Trump administration's, Donald Trump's term, that will then become precedent all throughout the administration, we should maybe hold off, and some of us who can accept Neil Gorsuch's positions on some of the things that they may be in agreement with because they're moderate Democrats, we'll let this one slide and we'll wait for the next fight.
And that's the real problem here for Democrats. They don't want to shoot themselves in the foot, Vlad, because they only have really one shot at using this filibuster, and is now the right time to use it if that nuclear option will be invoked by Mitch McConnell, backed by President Trump, because right now Neil Gorsuch is just replacing Antonin Scalia, who died, of course, nearly a year ago, and that is essentially a conservative slot that's been on the Supreme Court for years now. And Democrats could see an opening later down the line, perhaps in the summer, to get someone more moderate, at least, on the court, and they could decide to use that filibuster then.
All right, Steve Dorsey joining us. Thanks so much, Steve.